What is up everyone, Northside here, and by now you already know that the Band of Air, like I showed in my previous video, is getting a nerf. Now we have two developer blog posts regarding this, why they did what they did, and also the general direction of the balance. So they're probably going to nerf some more items, but we will see. Let's go to the blog post and we will see what it's all about. And here we are. Balance changes general direction, posted today, and balance changes general direction. Now I won't read everything, I will leave the links to these blog posts in the description, but let's just glance through this. The recent changes to Band of Air and Bones Level Ribcage have brought up the question of how we make balance adjustment more generally. It's important to emphasize that we do not want to lower the power of any item, just it's too strong. In some abstract sense, or even because it's stronger than we might have originally intended because we designed the item. Items should be lowered in power level only if their current power level is actually hurting the game. That typically means one of these three things. So the item strongly and directly damages the player experience. An example would be if an item allowed a boss to be killed in just a few seconds. Items that have server or client performance issues would also fail or fall in this category. Cases like this are fairly rare. The item creates a real haves versus have-nots experience all by myself. Of course, some characters will be much better geared than others overall, but it shouldn't come down to a single item, exclamation point, you can see here. The item prevents us from making a good new gear in its slot. This is really important. A lot of the fun of Neverwinter is getting a new gear for a character. Every time there's an item so strong that all other items in that slot, not only now but even in the future, are worthless, that takes away from that fun. This is by far the most common problem of the tree. If we do have to lower the power level of an item, it's just an item players work so hard to get, which is very often the case. We will try to keep the item strong and viable and not just lower its power level to the point where it never makes sense to use it. That won't always be possible, and even where it is possible, sometimes we will miss the target. It's a hard one to hit. In practice, an item that is crazy good for everybody will often, when balanced, become an item that's good for some classes and build, but only okay for others. Balance changes will not generally lead to make goods, but we might make exception in certain cases involving big power decreases for items people had to directly pay cash for. And we want to emphasize that it is never our intention to grab cash from some deliberately too strong item and then lower its power level. Please. So a make good can be called in those cases. The rest you can read it for yourself, as you can see here, and we're going to switch to Band of Air, which is quite interesting. So let's jump to it. Here is the Band of Air post. The Vault of Stars ring Band of Air has been universally acknowledged as extremely strong, and many have viewed it as an unreasonably strong. We have taken a close look, and after careful consideration we have made some adjustments. Read Nerf. We hope it will still be a strong endgame usable item and not so extremely powerful as before. Now let's look at some specific details of Band of Air. Now it currently has a chance to proc every time the player does damage, even with other procs. This is important. Having things proc of other procs is not a good situation. Technically it can lead to infinite loops or just server strain generally. It may be not a balance issue per se, although this is the case it is, but it's absolutely a reason Band of Air needs adjusting. In practice, a strong build can proc Band of Air or close to the theoretical maximum for once every second. Its base damage per proc is extremely high. Band of Air has a base damage of 6 times the player weapon damage. Crazy. For reference, the baseline for a typical at-will is 1 time, an encounter 3 times, dailies used to be 5 times, but they are probably closer to 10 times now. So we're just going to go into resulting changes. Here is a summary of the changes. Intent. Band of Air as good as other top tier rings such as Red Eyes Glare, but not by excessively large margin. Ring of Darkness also worthy of consideration, although not necessarily in the same tier as Band of Air. That bonus for the 2 rings stronger than the base rings for some, but not necessarily all builds. Band of Air now procs only on actual attack that player makes. Typically Neverwinter items proc on at-will encounter or daily usage, but in recognition of Band of Air history it's now set to proc on all attacks, mount powers, artifact powers, even potion tray items like the Doohickey or Neverwinter Hawk We tried just above proc reduction by itself, but Band of Air was still far outperforming Red Eyes Glare in that case, so adjusting the damage was also necessary. Ring of Darkness, the other item in the Queen's Empowerment set, has the same changes, but the damage amount was only reduced somewhat. It was not as high to begin with. Set bonus is tweaked slightly. Band of Air set bonus not altered. This means it's relatively better compared to base Band of Air than it used to be. Before it was much worse. Some builds might now prefer the Band of Air with the set bonus, but some builds may still find the base Band of Air better, and that's a fact. Boss HP of hardest content reduced, as you can see here. An explanation is, since the Band of Air was contributing such a big part of the damage of very high-end players, we reduced the boss HP by 10% in Master Trials and in Tower of the Mad Mage. Note, as a part of unrelated Sharandar overall progression overhaul, Band of Air and the Ring of Darkness are easier to acquire now. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to leave the links in the description, and tell me what you think about this, and we will have a nice discussion in the comment section. So shout out to my channel members, and Northside is out.